Welcome back to Accrued Interest. Today, March 19th, 2025, I'm going to go over the latest monthly installment of my favorite industry TV resource, the Nielsen Gauge report for February, which tracks where consumers in the US are watching their television on the big screen device, not including mobile. But first, as always, a brief disclaimer. Everything said on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes, as I'm not a registered investment advisor. A big reason I love the Nielsen Gauge report is because I love highlighting for you, the viewer, different free real-time resources that you could track to become a better investor and understand what's going on with the companies that you follow in between earnings releases. In Nielsen's report, they focus on the big screen television experience. We're not talking about mobile. We're not talking about tablets or other devices. The main television for most Americans is still the large big screen set that they have in their house. And what Nielsen is doing in this report, it shows how much of that share is going to streaming, how much to broadcast, how much to cable, and it also gives us key insights on the relative viewing share between the different digital services. The month of February was dominated in terms of viewing by the Super Bowl on Fox. So one of the standout services in this report we're going to talk about is Tubi. Tubi is a free ad-supported streaming service owned by the Fox Corporation that for the first time ever for the Super Bowl allowed viewers to watch on whatever digital device they chose. Even with that bump in viewership, Tubi still had about 2% of total big screen viewing for the month of February 2025. Now, on the day of the game, Tubi really outperformed. Tubi had about a third of all streaming viewership on the day of the Super Bowl. I'm going to be talking about Tubi in future videos, so I'm not going to do a deep dive at this time. But in summary, Tubi is a mixture of two business models that we see in streaming. First is the FAST business model, F-A-S-T, free ad-supported streaming television. You could think of this as when you go online and you see lots of old shows as well as some new shows that are in these different lineups that are always on. It's auto-programmed, so you don't necessarily have to pick a show. If you sit back, the service will pick it for you. Tubi is also a player in AVOD, advertising video on demand. AVOD is similar to FAST, except is more active. You see the squares, you see the show or the series or the movie that you want to play, and you actively go and press it. This is different from SVOD, which is what we think of when we think of the Hulu and the premium version of Netflix, where SVOD stands for subscription video on demand, and Tubi is the opposite. The other big takeaway from this report was that streaming continues to take share from broadcast and cable. The chart here, if you're watching on YouTube, goes back over the last 13 months, and for February 2025, streaming, the combination of all the streaming services, which we'll get to in a second, accounted for about 43.5% of total big screen television viewing. Broadcast and cable combined equaled about 44%. One nuance I want to point out here: streaming does not include VMVPDs, virtual multi-channel video providers. Streaming here does not include services such as Fubo TV or Hulu plus Live TV, because those services are really just live digital streams of what is effectively a live linear feed. So the viewing that is attributed to a service such as Fubo TV is disaggregated and attributed to whether or not the user is watching broadcast or cable in this analysis. Just wanted to call that out. I know I sound like I am beating a dead horse, but YouTube continues to shine in these Nielsen Gauge reports. It was actually reading these Nielsen Gauge reports that I saw YouTube's growing share month after month, and it's not being reflected in Google stock price. That's what really got me interested. So the story is the same for the month of February. YouTube reached a new all-time high in terms of big screen TV viewing share. They were number one yet again with a 11.6% share. That is a marked increase over last year when their share was around 9.3%. YouTube continues to blow away a lot of the smaller streaming competitors. Their 11.6% was equal to the combined total of Prime Video, the Roku channel, Tubi, Peacock, Paramount Plus, and Max. If you're watching this on video, I laid out the respective viewing shares of the other services, and between all the smaller competitors, their share of viewing is anywhere between 3.5% to around 1%. We have a familiar number 2 for the month at Netflix. They came out at a very respectable 8.2%. So there's a bit of distance between them and YouTube, but YouTube and Netflix are miles ahead of all the other streamers. The standout show for Netflix might not be one that you hear your friends talking about or people talking about online or in prestige publications. Netflix's number one show in February was The Night Agent, which had over 6 billion viewing minutes. So when thinking about TV, remember that YouTube and Netflix are miles ahead of all the other streaming services. User-generated content is taking more and more share of viewers' attention, and oftentimes shows that are not marquee names or at the top of the cultural zeitgeist are actually what are driving streaming viewership. The Night Agent is not going to be something you're going to see people praising on Twitter, but shows like this are the ones that really move the needle. Thank you for listening. We're going to be following the Nielsen Gauge when it comes out again for next month. But in the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe and stay tuned to the YouTube channel for more updates.